Hey, jackass, where's my DoorDash?
I don't know. DoorDash had a problem. As their cloud-native environment scaled and developers delivered new features, their monitoring system did what monitoring systems do and kept breaking down. In an organization where data is used to make better decisions about technology and about the business, losing observability means the entire company loses their competitive edge. With Chronosphere, DoorDash is no longer losing visibility into their application suite. What's the key? Chronosphere is an open-source, compatible, scalable, and reliable observability solution that gives the observability lead at DoorDash business confidence and peace of mind. To learn more, read the full success story at snark.cloud/chronosphere-success. Near the end of each year, AWS swamps customers with a veritable tidal wave of cloud service announcements. For a while now, I've been saying that AWS would do pretty well to take a look at a calendar and realize, there are 49 other weeks in the year besides the 3 leading up to and including reInvent. With this new discovery, maybe they could do us all a favor and dispense its hundreds of annual service releases across the calendar. I now know that this belief was wrong. It doesn't happen super frequently, but there are times that I completely reverse a position that I previously held. This seems to be one of those times, although it is nuanced. Onward! What I've wished for, namely a steady drumbeat of releases on a weekly or monthly cadence, rather than a torrent of them at reInvent, is superior to the status quo from the customer perspective. And it's why I've maintained this position for a while now. The challenge is that changing the release cadence would fundamentally break AWS's culture. Despite Amazon's vaunted leadership principle of customer obsession, it's the wrong lens to use to view product release cadences through. Something that Tony Fadell talks about in his recent and excellent book, Build, an Unorthodox Guide to Making Things Worth Making, is this idea that companies have heartbeats, both internally and externally. He talks about Apple's heartbeat historically being driven around the Macworld conference every year. And over time, that expanded to include WWDC, their big iPhone event in September, and so on and so forth. But at its core, one big event drove the cadence of the entire company. And he contrasts this with Google, whose heartbeat he describes as erratic and unpredictable. You don't want to hear that from your cardiovascular doctor, I promise. He stated that Google, as an entity, has one big external event every year, Google I/O. He didn't mention Google Cloud Next because no one ever does, because Google continues to get in its own way around those things. And as a result of this, because there isn't a clear heartbeat that is present, Google teams, by and large, are not synced up with Google I/O in any meaningful way. Tony Fadell doesn't describe Amazon's heartbeat, but it was impossible for me not to think about that because I keep AWS in the place where most people have hobbies. Having spent years as an AWS observer, it's clear to me that the 2 big events that drive its product release cadences are reInvent, which I'm going to assume I don't have to explain to you folks, and OP1, which I almost certainly do. See, details around OP1 are hard to come by externally. The term is used by Amazonians who just assume that the listener or reader or viewer or Twitter shitposter has a cultural understanding of what that is and what it means. OP1, or Operating Plan 1, is a mandatory 6-pager produced by every team's product manager around June-ish, and it encourages large-scale, longer-term planning. One question on it is, what resources do you need to grow your business by 10x? It should also be noted that there's also an OP2 in late December, but that looks like it takes more of the form of, good work, you survived reInvent. Now tell us how your achievements track against your OP1 document. AWS culture has been driven by this corporate ebb and flow for so long that it is impossible to predict what second and third order effects would result from a whiplash policy change to, oh, go for it, it'll be fine, release whatever you want, whenever you want, have fun with it. It would break performance review cycles, the migration of talent between different service teams, and budgetary planning processes just off the top of my head. reInvent and OP1 are more than just counterbalanced dates on a calendar. They're the underlying bedrock that supports a mind-boggling amount of Amazonian culture. You can cast whatever stones you, and more importantly I, would like to, but AWS has been a massive success for Amazon by any measure. Asking AWS to just throw away the culture that empowered all of that is no small thing. If the cost of maintaining that culture is that customers feel overwhelmed once a year when service releases start hitting hard and fast, then that's a price that Amazon's more than willing to pay because they've been paying it all along. In the long run, maintaining its culture better serves AWS's customers. It's easy to imagine alternate cadences. What if it were an 18-month cycle, or a 12-month cycle, or a 2-week sprint? It's pretty clear that this cadence predates Amazon having to give a flying Wallenda about its stock price, so I don't think it's tied to external market pressures. I have to trust that however they got to their current cadence, they didn't do it by just pulling a number out of a bag. And let's be clear here, there are exceptions to this once-a-year release cadence all over the place. If there weren't, most issues of Last Week in AWS would be less of a couple of thousand words summarizing releases and more of, here's a gif of a tumbleweed. Throughout the year, there are occasional service launches, constant enhancements and expansions to existing services, and quality of life improvements to basically every service they've got in ways that, from the outside at least, don't appear to bear any relation to these cadences that I've just described. Look, this is all highly speculative on my part, but it's pretty clear that to date, AWS has outperformed both Google Cloud and Azure. Depending upon whom you ask and the context in which you ask it, the reasons behind that success include customer obsession, frugality, API-based communication between teams, Jeff Bezos leasing his soul to the devil at very reasonable terms, the two-pizza team culture, and many, many, many more. I think that the awareness and institution of AWS's internal cadences is certainly a strong candidate for, if not the root cause, of its success. It's certainly a serious enough contender that I'm very reluctant to just casually toss out this idea of deviating from the reinvent release dump the way I have previously. I do want to caution you though, but just because this uniting cadence works for AWS, it very well won't work for you. It is really easy to look at any given aspect of a company or its culture and adopt it for yourself without understanding the larger context. And we see this constantly. When big companies look at startups' ability to deliver incredibly quickly, they envy it, and then they just start adopting the visible cultural elements without a nuanced or any understanding of their place in the larger tapestry. Well, we switched to an open plan office and we put some bikes in the entryway and then we tossed some dogs in the office, so when's the transformation come? Amazon prides itself on being misunderstood for long periods of time, whereas I pride myself on seeing through Amazonian talking points, enough so that I foolishly thought that I was somehow immune to misunderstanding the company at this point. This was a mistake. There's no harm in making mistakes, but it says nothing good once you realize that you've made a mistake and just continue to forge ahead anyway down a path you already know is wrong. So here it is. As annoying as it might be for customers to have to deal with a tidal wave of announcements, I'd argue that it's the lesser evil when compared to the cost of breaking the cultural engine that drives the AWS platform. Brush my hair, la la la. Brush my hair, I'm the prettiest pony. All right,